Hey guys, so I know that I said that I would try and do these right side up for this week. However, I can't figure out how to get my phone the other way and also write and have it up high enough. So they're just gonna be crooked. So either tilt your head on your Chromebook or I did test it out on my phone. I watched it on my phone and I turned my phone sideways, and as long as I locked my screen, I was good. I could see the video and it was completely normal. All right, so we are learning something completely new for everybody. So what we're going to be talking about today is zero and negative exponents. So that's going to be our title for today, zero and negative exponents. So with zero exponents, we're going to start with that first. One rule that you have to remember is any number to the power of 0 always equals 1. So I'll give you a second to write that down. So that's our rule that we want to remember. Any number to the power of 0 is always equal to 1. Always equal to 1. All right, so if we look at some examples. So if I have 18 to the 0 power, it equals 1. If I have 25 to the 0 power, it equals 1. If I have 2,321 to the 0 power, it equals 1. So the reason that that is like that is because we follow a base 10 system. So we have tens, hundreds, thousands. We also have the tenths, the hundredths, the thousands. So because of that, we follow the same rule with our other numbers. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me switch colors out. Okay, so if I have 10 to the third power, that's the same thing as a 1 with 3 zeros, right? 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. If we have 10 to the second power, that's the same thing as a 1 with 2 zeros. 10 times 10, that's 100. If we have 10 to the first power, that's just the same thing as 10. If you look at the pattern here in our numbers, here we have 1,000. If we move over a decimal place, we dropped an exponent, we move over a decimal place, we're now down to 100. If you look, we drop an exponent, we drop a decimal place, we're down to 10. So if this is 10 to the third, 10 to the second, 10 to the first, if we drop an exponent, we would be at 10 to the 0. If we move over a decimal place, we're at 1. So this right here is the reason that any number to the 0 power is always equal to 1. Now, let's take a look. This is going to get us into our negative exponents, which is the next thing we're going to look at. So here, 10 to the third, 10 to the second, 10 to the first, 10 to the 0. The next one would be 10 to the negative first. So 10 to the negative first, if we move over, is 0.1. If we do 10 to the negative second, we move over, that's 0.01. If we take this and we go one more, we have 10 to the negative third, and that's 0.001. So we continued to just move for each space over a decimal place to get to the next number. So now let's take a look at what this looks like in fraction form. So if you notice, when our exponents are positive, we end up with a whole number. When our exponents are negative, we end up with a decimal, which means when we have a negative exponent, we also end up with a fraction. That's the equivalent. So this right here is the same as 10 times 10 times 10. This is the same as 10 times 10. This is the same as 10. Once we get down here, this decimal is 1/10. So this is equal to 1/10, or 1 over 10 to the first is how we would write that. This we say as 1/100th, which is the same as 1 over 10 to the second. This one is 1/1000th, which is the same as 1 over 10 to the third. So this is the same as 10 to the third over 1. This is 10 to the second over 1. This is 10 to the first over 1. And then you notice we start to flip to the reciprocal. So when we have a negative exponent, you make it the reciprocal and make your exponent positive. So 10 to the negative first becomes 1 over 10 to the first. 10 to the negative second becomes 1 over 10 to the second. 10 to the negative third becomes 1 over 10 to the third. So you just make it the reciprocal, make your exponent positive. So I'll give you a second to take all that down, look that over, and then we'll take a look at an example. And I like to highlight, so I'm going to highlight. Okay, so let's look at a quick, easy example. So if I have 5 to the negative second, I'm going to turn it into a fraction because my exponent is negative. So it's going to become 1 over 5 to the second. So I made this the reciprocal, made my exponent positive. So then that is equal to 1 over 25 would be your final answer for that. All right, let's take a look at another example. Let's look at -3. And because there are parentheses around it, the entire thing has to be raised to the -4th. So this here is going to become, we're going to make it the reciprocal. So 1 over -3, we make our exponent positive. So this is the same as 1 over -3 to the 4th power, which is going to be 1 over -3 times -3 times -3 times -3, which is 1 over 81 for the final simplified answer. Okay, let's look at one with some variables in it that also uses the other properties that you learned last week. So let's look at this one, for example. 9x to the -2nd, y to the 4th, all over 18x, y to the 6th. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the 9 and the 18. So pretend that those variables aren't even there. 9 over 18 we can simplify. we can make that into 1/2. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna draw my line and I'm gonna write 1/2. So all I did was simplify 9/18. Now here we're dividing same bases. When you divide same bases, you subtract the exponents. So remember, this is a 1 here. So in this case, it's -2 minus 1. So that gives us right here, if we do this, I'm going to put right here what it looks like. X -2 minus 1 is going to give us x to the -3rd. Now, because we have a negative exponent, remember, it goes down below into the denominator, and the exponent becomes positive. So our x to the 3rd is going to go here. Now we're going to do the y's. We're dividing same bases, so we subtract the exponents. So here we're doing y to the 4th minus 6. That's going to give us y to the -2nd. But because that is a negative exponent, it's going to go to the bottom, and the exponent is going to become positive. So your final answer is 1/2x to the 3rd, y to the 2nd is going to be your final answer. And if you think about it, you have 4 y's up here, and you have 6 y's down here. So if we get rid of the 4 in the numerator and get rid of 4 in the denominator, that leaves us with the 2 in the denominator. That's why we can do that. So we put it down on the bottom. Just looking at my examples here to see if there's another example that I want to give you guys. Put some lines around this so that you could take a look, so you know that those are all kind of separate. Okay, so we'll hold on to these 2 examples. I'll include another video just in case you guys need some extra help kind of going through simplifying some of these. But again, remember, any number to the 0 power is always equal to 1. And when you're simplifying an expression that has a negative exponent, the negative exponent is going to go into the denominator and become positive.